Well, you're going to like this podcast. Hey, everybody, it's Brad. How many times have you been to a business conference or read a book and it says, you should try to be the Uber of your industry. You need to be a disruptor. And I think the thing about that phrase is like, yeah, that's a good idea. Pretty hard to pull off, right? Well, the more I thought about this podcast that you're about to see, the more I think we found an Uber. I think Penguin Magic, and Nick Locapo is going to represent them. I think they have disrupted the way magic tricks have been sold. So this is not as big as Uber because lots of people need transportation and fewer people need to buy magic trick props. But it's a really fascinating case study in how to take a brick and mortar business that was done one way for literally hundreds of years and then change it and make it way better and way more profitable and scale it up in a way that was previously completely unattainable. So I think you're going to love this conversation. Also, for what it's worth, I really enjoyed meeting Nick. I didn't know Nick, but I can tell you this. Super nice guy, absence of ego, absolutely willing to be vulnerable and kind, and it was an absolute treat. So tune in. We got Nick Locapo right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Nice to see you. You're looking good. Who are we kidding? I can't see you, but I can tell you that I'm super stoked about today's episode. This podcast is called Successful, Interesting, and Awesome, and honestly, it's turned out to be a great name because it gives me an excuse to call anybody who is either successful, interesting, or awesome. But of course, today we got the hat trick. We got all three. This is a guy that I feel like I know because I see him on video all the time. I have learned from him. I have studied him, and I enjoy learning from him. But also, I'm stoked because not only is he kind of a celebrity to me, but he's in a business that is very close to my heart. He's in the magic business. He's a very skilled magician. He's a teacher of magicians, and he's deeply involved with one of the big websites that sells magic tricks. So let's bring him in here. Nick Locapo, thanks for joining us.
Brad, what's going on, man?
Did I say your name
Thanks
right?
for having me.
Did I say your last name right?
I didn't even notice. I've given up on people even like it's Locapo.
Locapo.
I think there used to be like an apostrophe in there, but yeah, it's one of those. It's great to be here.
Well, it seems like the smallest thing I can do is get your name right. Nick Locapo.
You know what just happened? I don't know if you can hear it in my microphone, but the 12 o'clock tornado siren just went off here in glorious Columbus, Ohio. So if you can hear that, I apologize.
I could not hear that. How exciting!
Yeah,
is this a daily?
They test them every noon, every Wednesday at noon. So which is right when we went live. Should have thought of
that. I remember when we were a kid, that was the thing. Only we called them air raid sirens. Like, how terrifying is that? We never realized what it meant.
Yeah, it reminds you what the end of the world sounds like every noon, every 12 o'clock on Wednesday.
Well, I really hope it is a test, and we're not just talking to you, and suddenly you're blown.
Oh yeah, yes, no, it is a glorious day out here. So.
Well, tell me about you. I've been Googling you a bunch. Like I said, I feel like I know you because I've seen you so much on video. But I found your website, and this is perfect. I just love your short bio. My name is Nick. I make instructional magic videos and lecture for magicians around the world.
Yeah,
you do that and quite a bit more. When you meet people at a cocktail party and they say, "Hey Nick, what do you do?" Well, how do you answer that?
It's so hard. I mean, I think a lot of us, it's hard to answer that question, right? But for me specifically, it depends on where I am. Yeah, because if I'm in Columbus, Ohio, which is where the theater is and everything, I can kind of refer it to the theater, right? Like, oh, I have a theater here in town and we do shows. And like for the public, that's very interesting and easy for them to grasp, right? But yeah, I don't even think my dad knows exactly what I do, at all. So they have no concept of what I do. What do I say? I usually just tell them they just rip the Band-Aid off, tell them I'm a magician. And I better have something in my pocket to back that up as well. I don't really dodge the question as much as I used to anymore. I just tell them because there's really no other way around it. I used to have a lot more thoughts on that maybe 10 years ago, but these days, nah, I just let them know.
Well, Because the problem I hear with that is you say I'm a magician, and you are.
Hmm.
You're world class, dude. But also, you're doing very interesting things that are very different from what people might hear when they hear
Sure.
magician. When they hear
Yeah, I
magician,
guess.
they might think, "Oh, kids' birthdays," and that's
Sure,
not you.
sure. Yeah, it depends on, I guess, it's who we talking to here. Do I really need to let them know like what I do, and are they going to even bother to ask a follow up question, right? Do they care that much about what it is that I got going on? Because I mean, yes, like you read my website there, which I basically put that up just to kind of like, if you were to Google my name, like that's what happens. Like you just get that information, and basically that's it. Because how? I mean, maybe you and I should hang out and we should break down what exactly my bio should be, because I've been very confused about it for many years at this point. I don't know if like if you were to like lean into, let's say, the not claiming to be, but I am one of the only people that really do it consistently. This is the magic instructor. This is the guy that does this thing better than everybody else. Right? Where does that get me as opposed to some other things that you could choose? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, because you're right. You're amazing at this. Doing magic is hard. Teaching magic is a totally different deal. And
Sure.
I don't did that is this something that came over time, or you just came out of the womb saying I'm a pretty good
Oh,
teacher?
no, it's just totally fell into it. Yeah, basically. I mean, I guess on some level it just rubbed off on me from watching other people that I really respect, Um and when but when it came down to it, when I started teaching I just took it seriously because it's something I really enjoyed.
Right.
I've seen enough bad magic videos to not want to be that person. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of
I've
how that
never seen a bad magic
quickly happened.
video.
I'm sure you have. Yeah, if people don't know, there's like you can purchase instructional magic videos where they teach you tricks, like specific tricks usually. And some of them can be taught by a 12-year-old in their basement.
Well,
So it's
let me give him some background, Nick, and then I'm going to ask you if I have this right.
sure, sure.
Here's how magic used to be. When I was a boy, the only way to learn magic was to find an adult magician who would teach you, and that was really hard to do. Or you're
Hmm.
going to find a magic book. And maybe if you're lucky, a magic club might bring in somebody like Nick and they would lecture for an hour or two and you'd do everything you can. But it was just really hodgepodge. And then, if as far as props go, you went to a brick and mortar store and you hoped
Hmm.
that the person behind the counter actually knew enough about magic to demonstrate the magic tricks in a way that made you
Yeah.
want to buy them. But
Hmm.
that was all. It was all a random chance. Well, guess what? I was one of those guys. I was a demonstrator in multiple magic shows or magic stores, and
Yeah.
I
Wait.
got to
What?
tell you, I was really great at some tricks, and other times people would say, "Hey, could you do that trick?" And I would just butcher
You'd be
it,
like, oh
or maybe I
no.
couldn't do it at all. You
Yeah.
guys have solved that. You have entered the digital age at Penguin Magic. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved with Penguin and what is the how strategic are you on changing the way magic was taught and sold?
Ugh. Well, that happened. I'll tell you how I got in, but Penguin started in 2003, and it's just pretty simple when it comes down to it. It was just they kind of were the first group of people to put you know videos of magic tricks on the internet, right? So you could go to this website and you could click on a trick and you could watch a video of it being done. Up until Penguin, that really hadn't been done before. So that was just kind of like being there at the beginning.
Right.
And of course, I mean, if you've ever tried to put together a shopping cart in the early 2000s, that was a whole nother thing. So you kind
Right.
of needed both skill sets. Uh, and it was just been popular ever since. We kind of say that it's like, it's not the Walmart of magic, but it kind of is the only place online where you can get everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for that reason, I believe and the fact that the video and all that stuff has helped us sell tricks. I think that's why it's become the most successful shop, just because it doesn't like have a curated list of things that it sells. Um,
Well, I it's just so mind-blowing for people that don't understand. Imagine the old days. So you show up and Brad Montgomery's behind the counter doing a trick, and it depended on how Brad was that day or whoever
Sure.
was behind the counter. By
Yeah.
adding video, you're the originators, or maybe you, a master teacher, somebody's very skilled, gets multiple takes and editing, and it is
Yeah.
fantastic. By the time we see it, we just think that's how it should be done.
Yeah, I do really take that to heart a lot of times when I'm creating a demo video or anything. Like, you really, it's such a, so people that don't know, like, it's when you're creating like a demonstrated video, you're trying to sell the trick to the person, number one, but number two, you're also trying to like tell them as much information about it as you can without giving away the secret and respecting the trick in that
Mm,
light, right? So it's trying to find that balance and create the video that really like, does the trick justice and also, piques the interest of the person that's looking to buy it. And then of course, when they learn it, they learn it correctly, so
right.
that they have the confidence to go out and do it. Yeah.
Right, because that's another side of what you guys. I think I don't know if you. I think you guys invented this, where you buy a trick. It used to be you got written instructions, and some people either can't follow maybe they just don't learn well by reading, but also it's just
Sure.
genuinely helpful to show. Oh, you put your
Yeah.
first knuckle right there. It's just
Yeah.
so great to have video.
Yeah, it's just the equivalent of learning it in the shop from the guy after you buy the trick, or they would show you how it works sometimes. It would have happened no matter what, right? It's just magic. It was just a new video form for magic that took over. DVD was the same way. VHS and DVD, not so much VHS, but DVD was also. Once the magic shops were able to sell you DVDs, that was a much better product to purchase than whatever piece of paper trick that you might have been looking at.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
remember being in college when teaching VHS came out. To think that we could see David Roth or some famous magician do a trick and then
Hmm.
teach a trick, that was mind blowing. And this is what you're doing is so much better.
Yeah, that's where I got in. I was I grew up on a chicken farm in Pepperell, Massachusetts, an old chicken farm, and I didn't know you like. I liked David Copperfield. I thought he
Mm.
was cool, but I didn't know what he was doing was like something that you could do. I thought I didn't even know what a theater was. I didn't know where he was doing those shows from. But it wasn't until David Blaine did his street magic special, which I thought was, well, it is real. Everything he is from another planet. I don't know how he did any of that stuff, but when I realized, like, hold up, is this something I can do? Because he was like in a bar or on the street. Like, is this? I need to learn how this works if this is a thing because I want to do it. And so that's kind of what drove me to get in. And I discovered a magic shop in Boston, which was Hank Lee's at the time, and they would sell me. I came in right at the age of the DVD.
Hmm.
So like I know a lot of people listening wouldn't know, but this is like the age of like the Michael Lamar Easy to Master
Right.
series, which is funny. These are like benchmark DVDs. In other fields, I'm sure there's like other things that you could relate to, but like I could name this DVD and you'd be like, oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Every magician knows certain products, certain teaching. How'd you end up from Massachusetts to Ohio?
I had a business that I ran for about a decade right out of high school. I didn't go to college. I developed this online video game with some friends that became very popular, and it we ran that. Well, it's still running, but in 2007, 8, 9, I was just like I was kind of done with it. I've been running it for since 2000. Hadn't really. I mean, at the time, I was only like 20 when this stuff was kind of popping off. So any plans I might have had, I didn't really get to try to do. Like I kind of wanted to learn how to deal blackjack and thought maybe I should move to Vegas or something. But so I some of the guys that I was working with, they had already moved out of the states. They moved to Thailand. They were running things from out there, and I was
Right.
like, I'm in New Hampshire doing payroll and fixing HR problems. I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want any more of this. So I went down to Florida, lived with an old friend from high school for a hot minute. And the way that it kind of happened is we had just mentioned Michael Lamar. I had never really like bothered to Google Michael Lamar. He just kind of lived in my DVD player for 10 years. On Fridays or Thursdays, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm going out. Let me learn a new trick, right? I'll watch this DVD for the 5,000th time, right?
Right.
And I'll like see if there's a trick on there that I didn't see before." And I'd learn it, and then I go out, whatever. So it was just this one time. I was like, I should Google this guy. And it just turned out that he was going to be lecturing, which I really had never been to one of those
Right.
before, at the local IBM ring in Sarasota where I was. And I was like that week, I was like, what are the odds, right?
Right.
I
And
was like,
just
okay, yeah,
for people listening, this is like having Jesus show up to teach you.
yeah, yeah. Michael's yeah, he's another story, I guess. But anyway, so I had to sign up for IBM. I didn't know what that was. I go to this lecture. I meet Michael Lamar, which was super crazy because I didn't realize like how important he was until I was there. And then I ended up meeting another person there who was running Michael's tech, who was Jeff Kaler. I don't know if you know who Jeff is, but
No,
he's
I
a
don't.
fantastic magician. Jeff and I became quick friends because Jeff was from Boston, and he invited me out to his place in Orlando. Long story short, I ended up moving to Orlando 2 weeks later to go live in a house full of 7 other magicians. So,
Oh man.
yeah, and that all happened just because I Google searched Michael Lamar, and it's from that one search, a lot has changed in my life, strangely. So,
Well, okay, we got to we're going forward, but first we got to go backwards.
sure, yeah.
Were you still involved with the video game, and what game are we talking about?
This is a game. This is a game called Outwar. Outwar.
I'm looking it up.
You should not play it. It's really bad. I mean, I can't say it's really bad. This is a thing there's some interesting things behind this. One, it's a text-based role-playing game. Okay, and it's like 2D. It's just graphics and like text. So you can like walk around this world called Diamond City was the name of it, and you kill monsters and get gold and try to get better items, and it's very standard. I mean, at the time it was cutting edge, but it's very standard stuff these days. Um, I don't know how much you want to talk about this game, but there's
So
there's a lot of crazy stories.
were you a coder? What was
Yeah,
your role?
yeah, I did everything. Right out of high school, I got an internship. I was pretty like I started with some friends when I was like 16, 15, some different businesses coding websites. One of which still exists as well. But so I had like a blog when in high school. I graduated in 1999. I had a blog in 98, 99. The word blog didn't exist yet, right? But it was basically one of those junk website internet sites where like any dumb picture that you could find was on there because all that stuff was hard to find back in the day. So any video that was funny or
Right.
anything, it's like break.com, any of that stuff. Lycos, do you remember Lycos?
No.
Lycos was a search engine before Google, which of course nobody can remember. It was they used to flip Lycos, MSN, and Yahoo used to fight for the number one visited traffic site on the internet for a handful of years. Lycos was one of them. They had a little black lab as a logo. Anyway, they offered me an internship right out of high school. Like I didn't apply for one. They just offered me one because at some level they had their feelers out looking who was coding what online, I guess.
Right.
I'm still confused how that even happened.
But
But
that must have
anyway,
been heady, right? You're a high school kid, and here comes a big company saying, "We like you."
and it was they were making this is that boom, right? So they're making tons of money. They were paying me, like as a paid internship, and I was making a lot of money. More importantly, they put me in a room with other uh 20-year-old guys that were doing the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So we ended up like, yes, I ended up coding on this thing. My coding role kind of morphed out of coding into more like management, like managing the code. Because I had a background in code, but I also wasn't as good as some of the other guys or as passionate about it, I should say. And I also had more of a graphic background as well. So I was more on the design end of the website, creating it that way. So Yeah, that's kind of how that evolved.
And now, fast forward, you're living with seven magicians. Did you
Yeah.
sell your piece of the of Outwar, or did you just walk away, or what happened to that?
Yeah. Got just walked away. Just walked away.
Any
Yeah.
regrets?
No, no, no,
All right, good for you.
no.
But already I'm seeing this theme that doesn't surprise me at all, because here you are, a very talented magician, but the computer side and the digital side is obviously not intimidating for you. And
No.
so knowing that you were an intern way back when makes sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, I just was kind of following something that I knew that I liked, and weirdly, getting a taste of like success and some money earlier on helped as well because after I got a job at a theme park making like as minimum wage as I could, it kind of like you kind of learn that, oh well, I don't really have anything different going on than I did before. Maybe I can go out to eat a little bit more than I used to, but like it was kind of the same lifestyle. So it just was like I had more fun doing something that I loved with less money than I did, with more.
Wow, that was kind of profound, my friend.
There you go. There you go.
And you discovered that wisdom at, it sounds like you were 20ish or something.
Uh, I mean, I was working my ass off at the theme park there, but which we'll talk about, I'm sure. But yeah, I guess I was 29, 30, 31,
Oh,
somewhere
and
in
were you
there.
doing magic in a theme park or doing something else?
Yeah. So after I moved to Orlando, I still was kind of like running out of money from the from Outwar, still trying to figure out what I was going to do, because I was just in Florida and so somebody had mentioned that there's a magic shop at Universal Studios and they look for magicians, and I was like, well, I'll audition for that. So I auditioned for that and I got it. But like up until that time, I had never done a stand-up performance. Right, I was very comfortable showing anybody a card trick at the bar.
Right.
In fact, like, my skill set up to that point was walk into any bar and become friends with literally everybody, Um, but that's very different from doing a presentation in front of
Right.
people. Yeah. I'd never done that before until I went to Universal.
And at Universal, so help me out. You were a demonstrator in the store,
Yeah. It's quite brilliant. Attilio Sisifo, he has a shop called Theater Magic. It still exists. It's not at Universal anymore. It's just in Kissimmee, Florida at this point. But it was in the theme park, and it for all intents and purposes, it felt like just a show as part of your ticket price to go to Universal. Somebody'd be outside saying magic show, in 15 minutes, and you'd go in and you'd sit down in an actual theater. It sat 30 people, very parlor. And it was nice for them because it was air conditioned. They could sit down for a minute.
right?
And then the magician would come out and do about a 15-minute long show. And it was a real show. But everything in the show was for sale. There was some pitch lines and things here and there, just kind of letting people know that what they were seeing is for sale. But it was an actual show, which was really cool. Then after the show ended, people would, exit through the gift shop. And if they wanted to, they could pick up any of the tricks that they saw in the show. So it was, I've seen other shops kind of do similar things, but this was just like really heavy emphasis on let's give them a magic show, whether they buy anything or not.
Right.
Let's give them a show, right? So that's where I cut my teeth learning how to do stand-up performances.
Heck yeah. So I'm guessing you have an 8-hour shift. You do 20, 30 shows.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It was crazy. I was not aware. I mean, I just assumed that everybody did 20, 25 shows a day. Um,
No.
so I've done the math, because you would average, depending on what time the park closed that day, you could do anywhere from 15 to about 27, I think would be about the most shows you could do,
Wow.
15-minute shows. So in like the 3 to 4 years that I worked there, I did over 13,000 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
but there's some amazing lessons to be learned in there for sure. So
that's experience you can't buy. All
no,
right.
yeah, I
Well,
don't regret it
so
for a second.
that in some ways, although that sounds unbelievably creative, and it sounds like just about a one step away from being a carny in some ways, because
Yeah, sure.
you're kind of working the crowd, even though they don't know it.
Yeah, yeah. There was certain skill sets that I learned in there that I didn't know would apply to later on. Um, I guess it's just whatever I end up doing, I get pretty like passionate about doing it very well. So like that show I was doing there was like it would be very easy to let it just go to work and do the show, just let the show vomit out of my mouth for
Yeah.
for 8 hours. I tried to learn, like, if there was anything I could learn from any show, I was like searching for it, at all times. So, yeah, and I guess like, well, maybe that's it. Just was those skill sets kind of just transformed over into Penguin, I guess, because I just kind of learned how to talk to people about what they might want to do in their own performances, I guess.
Well, it's so fascinating to me because you got that very interesting blend all since the beginning of being a performer and a business person at the same exact moment.
Yeah, yeah, suppose so.
Because
Yeah,
Copperfield doesn't do that. He just does a show. He's just a performer. He's not.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. So this is so one of the reasons why when you go on my website, Brad, it just kind of says Nick does this and this. Do I do like corporate stuff, or like if I do private parties and all these things? Um, I do. I'm very good at them. Do I like to do them? No. I,
No way. Why not?
but I mostly don't like to do them because I just don't enjoy the business side of it. The dealing with the like I know how to deal with people fine, and but like I would rather be the David Copperfield who just like has to
Sure.
go on the stage every night and do it. Um, Again, I guess it's nice because I can do those other things, but more importantly, I learned that I also don't enjoy it. Because when I first started getting into once after I kind of evolved after Theater Magic, I was like, well, how do I put together like a stage show for company X? That's what I need to do, right? Like that's
Right.
how you make money at this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, we got to do that. And then I started doing that, and like it just wasn't fun, It wasn't. It didn't feel like the reasons why I got into doing magic tricks, because most people at these things are they're just there for the free dinner and then want to go home, or, pick up their
Right.
Christmas bonus check and get out of there. I could see what I would have to do to make it great, but I just didn't want to have to go there, because then I'm going down a different path that it's not into it. Can I do it? Of course. And I take it very seriously, but that's why you won't see it on my website if you were to
Yeah.
go
Well,
there.
good for you because you found the part you love and you eliminated the part you don't. Well,
You know what I
talk
do
us.
great is I'm a great backup. I love backing up other magicians because they know I won't steal their gig and they know I'll do a great job at some other company's party.
So I get sick and I call you up and you're like, oh hell
Yep,
yeah, that's where I want to be.
absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right.
You won't have to worry about a thing.
Well, somehow you're figuring this out. You're in Florida, and then you get connected with this fully digital, creative
Yeah,
kind of disruptor company. How'd
yeah.
that in a different state?
It yeah, it happened. I was looking to get out of this theme park because you can only do it for so long. It's just your life is on repeat, like every 15 minutes. Everything's the same except for the people in front of it. It's a strange place. I love it there. I'll always cherish that time, but like it is a weird place to like live in. Anyway, one of the people that came to work there was a guy named Dalton Wayne, who currently still works for Penguin now. He at the time was always submitting tricks to Penguin, and his tricks weren't all that great. Uh, but more importantly, the videos that he was editing to showcase those tricks were very cutting edge. Dalton's a very gifted video editor, and Penguin was kind of like, "Hey, we don't want to put out some of these tricks, but do you want to come to Columbus and edit video for us?
Right.
So he left Universal and went on to work for Penguin. And when I left Penguin, I kind of kept in touch with them, kind of like same curiosity like you have, like, what's up with Penguin, man? Like, what are they doing out there? Like, why, how is it? And he was like, hey, they need somebody exactly like you here. You should come out and meet everybody. So I just got in my car because I went back home at the time. I went back home to Massachusetts, and I was just kind of helping out my parents, and they had a like a kitchen and bathroom remodeling company. So I was just kind of like doing some of that and hanging out. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there this weekend. So I drove out to Columbus. I showed up on a Sunday night when they were filming a Penguin Live, which is one of the shows that Penguin Magic produces. Walked in, saw the blue wall, which I know you're familiar with there. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm in this room. That's crazy. And yeah, once I realized, because I had my doubts that it was even a real job. Do you know, Brad? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, is this a place where I'm gonna get a paycheck? Like,
Right.
I had no idea. And once I met everybody behind it, I was like, wow, okay, yeah, you really want me to? Because I'll come out here. I'll move to Columbus and start doing this, and that's what I did. It just kind of just because of Dalton is the reason why I ended up at Penguin.
And what's your job title at this point? Like the guy who's going to help us figure out
Yeah,
videos.
we don't have job titles. I mean, it's just um, I think the main thing that I do, and you just wouldn't really realize this from the outside looking in, is that a lot of times we film we film a lot of stuff, and sometimes we have tricks that we film that just weren't quite fully realized. And like the process is tough sometimes because like if you had a trick, Brad, you came out to Columbus, you're like, this is my amazing, vanishing microphone trick. And you made this prototype gimmick at home and it works, and you've been doing it on the road for 15 years and you know exactly what it has to be. So you come out and we film you doing this trick, and it gets great reactions and everything. The problem is we go to make the demo video, and the final gimmick that we ended up having to create, because of all of the materials that need to go into it and choosing the right thing that costs the right amount of money. And then, of course, that elastic band that you had in your original microphone, Brad, isn't going to work. We're going to make that into this pulley. It doesn't look the same, right?
Right.
So it's like I end up having to kind of redo everything we filmed with you while still. I mean, you might have seen some of these videos where it's like you'll watch a performance with Brad, but then it'll be me teaching it because you didn't actually get what Brad used. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of fall a lot of times in that pocket of, I call it fixing. There's nothing wrong with this stuff, but I just call it
Right.
fixing the product and making sure that it's great, as opposed to like, hey, mine doesn't, like, just these questions. Like, you end up getting the thing in the mail and you're like, wow, mine doesn't look like that, or like, oh, mine didn't move like that. I guess it's the same, but so it's just, those are problems to me from 10 years ago within the magic community that would have happened in videos. But I try to make sure that none of that stuff happens if I'm going to be on the video. Do you know what I mean?
I think right now you're talking about the instructional part of this
Yes.
process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we come to Penguin Magic, we buy a trick, and we're then delivered a video of you. Often it's you teaching us how to do it.
Yeah.
What about
Yep.
the because there's the other video is very interesting to me, which is the demonstration part of it, the
Sure.
commercial. If you
Yeah.
buy this trick, it will look like this.
Yep.
Can you walk us through how those work?
It's really trick specific. And the any theory that exists behind this is it's purely in my own head. But
Yeah.
there's it depends on what the trick is, what's the venue for the trick, how much does the trick cost? Is it a physical item that you're going to take get in the mail, or is it something that you just learn on your own? Um, and like, for example, let's take, I mean, like, if it's a card trick that is, somebody picks a card and then you end up finding it, but there's nothing to find, right? There's no secret thing that you need to hide from the camera. Well, you're in a position where you could show them the entire routine, right?
Right.
And I'm just making this up here as I go. So like that's really valuable in some cases, to be able to show the entire trick. Now, unfortunately, sometimes it's a bad thing to show the entire trick because the secret might be really evident. And if it's a trick where you don't have to have a physical item in your possession, well, then you're just giving the trick away for free. Because if you're a customer of Penguin Magic, you do have a certain knowledge base of things. So if you could just watch it and learn the trick, well, that's not good, because it's not fair to the creator and the trick itself. So like that's where sometimes you have to make like an edit in the video, which some people might not like.
Yeah.
But it's like it's tough, because it's like, what do you do? What's the real thing? Now, if it only costs like $10 or something, um, these things are less amplified. But if it costs $60, then it becomes more of an issue, right?
Right.
So there's all of these like balancing points.
Well, I know what you're
Like,
talking about because on your website, you can see reviews of the trick. So all the people about this trick have a chance to review it, like social
yeah,
media. And
hmm
you see those people howling, going, "You cut away, and you didn't show the thing that is,
yeah,
that so the video wasn't accurate." Where I know that cutaway has to be the thing you guys argue and worry about all the time.
yeah. I mean, if if somebody can watch over my shoulder, or like hear some of the conversations I've had about specific just moments and specific words that I use in videos, you would just be like, wow, nobody's thought that far about any of this stuff ever. Um, I guess like a specific example that I can just remember recently is, it was a trick called Red Card that came out on Penguin. Are you familiar with it?
I don't remember that one. No.
It's a trick by Roberto Joby from Denmark, and he's fantastic magician. Anyway, this trick, at the end of the trick, it's the effect is this: you show a blue back deck and a single red card. You say this is a mystery card, this red card, because it obviously doesn't fit in the blue deck. And you place that red card on top of the blue deck and you cut it into the center. And then the audience, then you take the deck and you put it in a glass. The audience then collectively selects a card. It can be any card. Well, there's some leeway here, but the audience chooses a card together.
Hmm.
So they come up with a card and you say, okay, we're going to take that card out of the blue deck. And you take that card out of the blue deck from the face up side, so you're not looking at the backs, and you place it in the glass. And you say, now, unfortunately, it's not the red card, and you fan through the deck, and you're looking for the red card from the back side. So you're spreading through all these blue cards, and you can't find the red card. Where's the red card? And you look at the card in the glass, and the audience has somehow named the one red card because you turn the glass around, and that card is indeed red.
All right. Cool trick.
Cool trick. All right. But this trick, when you're marketing this trick, suffers from some things that you could easily lie about. And that is the first one being, any card can be selected from by the audience, which is true, but also not true, because there are some cards that you can't allow the audience to choose. However, part of the secret that you're going to get when you buy the trick is some really clever psychological thinking on how to never let your audience choose those specific cards. So, on some sense, any card can be chosen, because if you're using this method, they're never going to choose those cards.
Right.
But I can't say that in the video. I can't say audience can choose any card. If I do, it will turn that trick from being a 5-star commented trick into a 3-star trick on the site, because in the video Nick said, and each card could be chosen. That's not true. And it's not fair on either level, because they're completely discounting the secret that they just purchased, which is so valuable, in my opinion, if you were to actually learn why that is true, that any card can be chosen. But that's not what's going to happen on the site. So I can't let that happen. I can't let Roberto's work go from a 5-star trick to a 3-star trick just because Joe Schmo thinks that I lied to him, which I did and didn't. Right. So that's one area that I
Yeah.
hope makes sense to you and your listeners. The
It's
other
such
end of
a
that trick. Yeah, go for it.
such an interesting gray area because
Yeah.
magic is lying, and if you're going to
Yeah.
demonstrate a trick, you have to lie.
Hmm.
Somehow you're lying. Either you're hiding something or you're using different words.
Yep.
But
And
when selling it, that's a different thing.
now the other very interesting thing about the ending of this trick, because if you've been in Magic at all, this is a trick that you've seen other versions of. Somebody names a card, happens to be the only other colored card in the deck. So like I have to I have to use sales points against other tricks that
Ah,
exist that only magicians are aware of. So like cuz if you're just one of like somebody that's never seen this type of thing before, you'd be like okay, none of what I'm saying right now matters, but I have to say these things at the end because what's interesting about this particular trick is that the red card in the glass at the end can be examined, right?
yeah.
Now, if you don't know anything about the trick, you'd be like, fine. Like, why does that matter? But within this particular set of magical thinking that Roberto's put together, that's a big deal. Like to be able to get to there where that red card in the glass is an examinable card
Hmm.
is a big thing. What can't be examined is the deck of cards, right? So I have to be I want to not like because that's like a negative if you're watching a trick. Like if you're like, I want to tell the people that yes, this is a gimmicked deck of cards, but I also don't want it to be a bad thing because like weirdly, when you're purchasing Magic, if the deck is a gimmick deck, you're less likely to purchase it. It's just kind of how it is. I don't know how you
Right.
feel about that,
Yeah.
but so I have to like tell them like so the words I used in the video were very careful. I said the red card can be examined and the blue deck can be shown on both the front and back, which is
I would
completely
love to be
true.
there in the meeting as you guys go through it and go like, "Is this good? Or are we going to get crappy reviews
It's
because I
just
was
me. It's
misleading?"
just me. Yeah, it's just me in my room. I could talk forever about this stuff. The other one that drives me nuts is the off by one plot, but we won't get into. But like, I feel like nobody's ever thought more about that than me at this point. So,
Well,
yeah, it's crazy. You got to choose your words correctly.
let me switch gears just a little bit because again,
Yeah.
from my mind as a 56-year-old guy, you guys have just totally disrupted in all the best ways how magic is sold. Although kind of frustrating because we can't go to brick and mortars because they don't exist anymore. But on the other hand,
They're
you guys do
around.
better work. But one of the things you've done is unbundle. And I don't know if that's what you call it, but that's what I call it. So it used to be you'd
Yeah.
buy an entire book and the book came with
Yeah.
multiple tricks. Or and then
Uh-huh.
later on you could buy a VHS or a DVD or even a digital movie file and it came teaching many tricks. And then you
Hmm.
guys got what I think is smart and you unbundled it all. So instead of
Yeah.
selling the book, you're selling one trick. Instead of an hour long or 2 hour long video, you're selling 10 minutes of that video, which strikes me
Hmm.
as McDonald's saying like, "Hey, we come in here and you buy a whole meal." And then finally they came around and got smart and said, "Well, you can just buy the hamburger if you want."
Sure. Sure.
So can
I
you
don't
walk
know
us through
what.
that?
Yeah. I think that just. I mean, that kind of was happening as I was getting into Penguin. I think. I mean, the truth is if Brad was to put out a Magic DVD with 30 of his best tricks on it tomorrow, and you also put out a video of what you thought was the best trick from the 30 tricks standalone product. So you had the two products next to each other, um, and they were about the same price. Maybe one was a little less than the other one. the it's not even going to be a contest. The single trick video is going to sell more than the multi trick video. It's just what it is. I don't know when that was kind of like that discovery was happening, but at some point it just shifted that way. I mean, obviously it makes a lot of sense from a retail standpoint. Like, why not? Yeah, like why put out a video that has 30 tricks on it when you can sell each one as an individual product? Um, but so it's not even like we're, because on some level it feels like we're kind of like screwing over the customer, but they don't even want the 30 trick
Right.
product. Yeah, why I don't know, but that's it. Just it was like a natural evolution of how those things happened.
I think it's brilliant for a lot of reasons. One of them, it does make it easier for the consumer because
Yeah,
we're trying to find out. You might buy a 2-hour video and you don't have time to watch it or even
yeah,
desire to watch it. You're looking for the one gem and you don't even know what the gem is. So
yeah,
you're having to sort through to find that one thing that you think is great, and having someone curate and tell you this is the gem or here's the two things that
yeah.
we think are great. Pretty handy.
It's just the difference is really, like you were saying before, there was only certain ways to learn magic back in the day. So whatever magic you had, you cherished it and you watched it over and over and over and over and over again. And now you can. There's just an abundance of it, and you don't have time to weed through the 6 hours of lecture material that you purchased or whatever.
Right.
You would think to yourself, why would you want to watch a 30 trick multi DVD? Well, 20 years ago, that would have been I would have watched it 30 times over,
Right.
trying to find any moment, any line, anything, from there. So it makes it easier on everybody, makes it easier on the creators as well. I can't imagine these days having to put together like a multi-trick DVD of all that different material, making sure it was all great. I'd rather focus on one and make a great product out of that one
Well,
trick.
plus it's the same in every book in every industry. There's always filler. There's the good stuff, and then there's the stuff that takes to fill up the book or the video or whatever.
Yeah, we also suffer from, and this is just unfortunate, but movies have the same problem. But because we don't have the ability to sell the DVD anymore, it's hard to put any of those types of things together, um, because it's just, if you were going to pour all of that effort into one thing and it just gets sold for $2 or given away for free because of you just share it online, that's not a very appealing thing to do.
Well, let's talk about this. We got a question from Will Mans, who's clearly a magician. How does Penguin
Sure.
Magic stay on top of the digital magic game while in the current world of YouTube and people out there practically giving valuable secrets away out there? So
Yeah.
thanks very much. That's similar. So YouTube, you can learn how to do magic by watching YouTube, but then
Yeah.
also you kind of touched on it. People are sharing secrets without the creator getting or the store getting any credit. Can you?
Yeah.
Where do we start on that one?
I I I personally really love it, because I feel like it's something I used to say, but just I love that the general public is getting like a baseline magic education. If you like magic, and this was something that you and I could not do 20 years ago, but if you like magic, you can sit on your computer and go, let me watch some magic videos for a while. And you can go down that magic rabbit hole. I don't even know what that's like. I don't even know how far they go. How much Fool Us do they watch? How much AGT do they watch?
Right.
How much like rando magic videos do they watch when they do that? Because I got to assume a lot of people do. Magic videos are really popular on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and all that. And then it's a simple fact of just like, oh, well, how did that bill get inside that lemon? Type it in. There's a Wikipedia page on it, right? Like,
Is it
so.
really?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's so. And I've felt this in my own close up work, where I'm doing tricks that I used to do 15 years ago that are strong, but I feel like the sleight of hand stuff and some other things just don't hit as hard anymore. Not because it's not good, it's just that they've seen stuff. And maybe they do know what a double lift is, and they're just like excited to watch it in action. I don't know. I don't know exactly what goes through their head, but my point is that I'm excited that people have like a baseline, or starting to get a baseline magic education. And there's more venues to go watch it than ever.
Right.
They've been popping up all over the place.
Yeah, but let's go back a point
So
because I'm
yeah,
not sure I
go
agree with
back.
you. It feels to me that yes, there are some people that have educated themselves, if not how to do magic, at least they're kind of seasoned fans, right? They've seen a lot of magic.
Mhm.
But also, it seems like that percentage of people is tiny. If you walk into a bar with 100 people, maybe one person has watched more than one magic episode of America Got Talent. Am I
Yeah.
wrong on that? You think my
I
numbers
don't
are too
know.
low?
I mean, I know that like I know that I'm around. I mean, I'm at a magic venue all the time, so I'm always around people that are like excited to see magic. And a lot of times it's their first magic show, and they'll be happy. 20 years ago, all they could talk to you about was like, oh, what's that guy's name? Is it David? David what? David?
Right.
Now they can name all sorts of magicians and specific tricks. I was sitting at a bar in a hotel just a few weeks ago, and there was a billiards convention, and I happened to be talking to this guy. I was in my suit because I just got done with the show. He asked me what I did. I was like, I was doing a magic show down the street. And he's like, "Oh man, I love magic. I'd never seen it up close before." Like just saying all the things that I want to hear.
Right.
Do you know how to do the trick where the bill or where the card ends up inside the orange? And which I was like, by I actually do. But like that's a conversation impossible to have 20
Right.
years ago, right? Didn't exist. So to get back to their question there, the magic that is sold on Penguin, you're just not gonna. Those aren't things that really you're gonna learn on YouTube. We, while there are plenty of instant download type tricks where it's just like, here's a card trick that you can learn. Unfortunately, those are kind of like dying for two reasons. One is that they're just exposed on YouTube a lot of the times. And two, they're unfortunately pirated all over the place, right? So it's not a very profitable area to be in. Where 10 years ago, selling just a straight up download where you just watch a trick and then you get the video and learn it because you don't need any special props was very profitable. But now it's just not it's not a good venue for the things. So to sure, you could expose Brad's vanishing microphone on YouTube, but it's technically not a bad thing because people might buy it because of it. So I think there's still a balancing
Right.
act going on between the two. And I think eventually it will kind of sort itself out. But at the moment, everything seems fine to me. I would rather the bad magic get sorted out by the public. I would like the public to know what bad magic is and good magic is. I think I would like that.
Yeah, I think one thing is clear. People have seen more magic, and they are more familiar with good magic and less, I think, willing to put up with crappy magic because they recognize it. Like
Yeah.
this is not fun.
Before, the worst magician could show anybody a trick and probably blow their mind, right? Um, and nowadays, I'm not sure it's the same for that. It's kind of like a little like the great resorting is happening here, where you can't quite get away with some of the stuff that you used to get away with. I feel like,
Well,
and
talk
I'm
about.
that's just my own gathering. Yeah,
I'm with you. Talk about that, Nick. One of the things I think is happening, but this is just one guy's opinion, is that generally on the planet, learning is accelerated because there's more
yeah,
information more readily available. And it
hmm
feels to me like the quality of magic is better because we are all able to see good magic done well. We're able to find good magic done well. We're able to
yeah,
learn magic taught well. Am I right? Do you think magic is getting better
yeah.
because of
I think
the internet?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, because even for a guy like me, like, well, I guess I'm in a different category just because of the sheer amount of magic that I have to watch, but you can watch magic if you want to, right? So you can watch great magicians whenever you want to and get inspired and just know where the bar is, right? I had no concept of how good I was at magic between, not that I really cared, because whenever I showed a trick to somebody they'd lose their mind, but between 2000 and 2010 I could have been doing the worst stuff in the grand scheme of the magic, universe, but I would have had no idea. Now I think it's a little easier to know where what the platform's all about, like what it takes to be a great magician is easier to learn than ever.
Yeah, I feel like that's true. My favorite story is a guy who was kind of a grandpa to me named Orville Meyer. He
Mm,
he lived in a tiny town in Nebraska, so he was the poster child for a kid who wanted to learn magic but had no money, and even if he did, it wouldn't have helped. And he got a catalog from Tennant's Magic, or I can't remember where, Abbott's or something like that. Anyway, The trick is something you'll recognize. You have a pitcher of water and you empty it out, and then magically a little bit later you empty out the magic pitcher again. We thought it was empty, but yet there's more water. And the way he did this is he lived in a very. It only worked in the summer during outdoor shows because he was in Nebraska. So he froze a pitcher of
Oh
water
man.
and he poured water out, and then he waited a little bit, and then he poured more water and it melted, which just cracks me up because it was so inventive and also horrible, just a horrible
Yeah.
method. But the audience apparently dug
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, you
Well,
would never have seen anything like that, right? That would have been the first time you've ever would have seen anything like that,
right. He
right? I
saw a
mean,
description in a magic catalog and went out and invented a
sure.
method.
Yeah. Oh man, those old descriptions in
Yeah,
Magic
talk about
Catalog.
lying. You were worried about
Yeah,
lying
right.
over these phrases. There was all kinds of lying. Nick,
But
let's
that's the
talk
only
about.
way you could sell it.
I
Yeah, go
want to
for it.
talk to you about David Blaine's influence on your videos at Penguin, and also just magic. Period.
Mm,
The question is going to be, do I have this right? I think before David Blaine, the camera always focused on the magician, and it was, David Copperfield and Doug Henning and whoever else was on TV. And we'd have two cameras on the magician and whatever. Now you've got one camera on the magician and two or three cameras on the people watching the magician. And it
yeah,
seems like the final edit is only a little bit about the trick. It's really about the reaction that the trick causes. And we
sure.
really see that in the video. Can you talk about that? Am I close?
Yeah, you're correct. I think. Well, when it comes to David Blaine, yes, and like they were smart enough to know that when they filmed it. I can't remember if he said it or whoever, but like basically that those original David Blaine magic specials are documentaries on people's reactions to magic.
Yeah.
is basically what it is. Yeah, they were the first people to kind of turn the cameras on the people, but also the magic that they were doing. You know, those were tricks that at the time, not now, those are the tricks that you'll see. Basically, if you were to encounter a magician at like a cocktail party or something, the magic's going to look more like that than opposed to what was before David Blaine. Well, it was all people basically doing parlor and stage magic on television. This is the first time you saw it like in a barroom setting or on a street setting. So yeah, we still subscribe to that a bit, but it just depends on what the trick is again, right? So if we're selling you a trick that which involves finding a card with a spectator, where at the end they're gonna have some cool like mismade card or something, you want that you want to see what they look like when they hold the card in their hand
Mm-hmm.
and look at it and inspect it. But if the trick is like some sort of like visual transformation where a card changes into $100 bill or something, that might be something that we do direct to the camera now, because I think there has been a shift in that medium as well, where I think from 2010 to 2000, even 15-ish at this point, the focus was on doing things live for people and seeing the reaction. Now there is a new venue for magic, and that is doing things on Instagram or YouTube Reels, any of these short
Right.
TikTok 5 to 10 second things. It's a real venue, and now that magic, you don't care what somebody else is. If you're scrolling, you don't care what somebody else thinks about the trick. You want to see the trick because you can. It's
Right.
like literally in your hands. So that's why everything now is like right here, right to the camera. But both, I think, are still viable like venues for filming magic online right now.
That's so interesting to me. I never considered that. That the way you film it, or at least the way you edit it, is totally related to what type of trick it is. Because I just kind of
Yeah.
had this blanket thought that it was all reactions.
Yeah, like the vanishing microphone, obviously, which I brought up here multiple times, probably has to be done on stage, you know. Which is a tougher. I mean, it's already going to be a niche product here because you know how many people are using a microphone. But in that case, we would put you in front of a group of people and film it on stage, and you know it would have to be pitched to people that would be on stage. If it's a quick little card to $100 bill, yeah, we would just film it directly to the camera. Yeah, maybe we would go out and get some performance footage and see what it looks like when people react to the trick.
Hmm.
But to be honest, like, those aren't the tricks that people freak out over. It's just that one moment, and you might get a reaction that's just like of total confusion, right? Because there's nothing after it. It's the tricks that are like multi-phase, where like you pick a card that ends up underneath the box, and then it somehow ends up underneath the box again, and then you put it back in the deck, and it's still underneath the box somehow. Those are the tricks that you want to focus on the magic, but you really want to focus on the people, because you're just watching them step by step lose their mind, right?
Right.
Um, and then, of course, the card ends up inside the wallet, and then they run out of the room, and you're not going to get that from just a quick 5-second Instagram trick. So you just have to know what you're filming.
Yeah. It seems like buyers want to know if this product is any good. And you're showing
Yep.
them that it's good by showing people go nuts after they see the trick. And
Hmm.
I just see that as such a clever idea to use that as a marketing bit. I think it's
Hmm.
brilliant. Well done, you.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, all based on other stuff that I learned. I'm not sure I claim to invent any of this stuff.
Can you take us behind the scenes? You have a series. Penguin Magic has a series where they bring in outside magicians and put them in front of an audience and film them
Yeah.
either performing,
Yep.
but usually it seems like performing and teaching
Yep.
a magic lecture. I'd love to know, like, how do you get people in there? And is it hard to fill up that room with muggles? And
Yeah,
what's that like?
I'll try to give you the quick like evolution of this thing. Penguin Live is an online lecture format for magicians. So in 2013, when this started, it was live. So we would fly in a great magician from somewhere who was great at something, and then it would be like watching a TV show, like a late night TV show. There was a host. We've had various hosts throughout the year, throughout the times. The host would introduce the guest, and then the guest would come on, and the audience would typically be all magicians, and the guest would come on and perform a bunch of magic for the magicians, and then teach you the magic. And you could also write in questions if you were watching live. It was live, like purely live. In 2013, that was like a big deal,
Yeah,
a big
crazy.
deal. And nobody had really been filming lectures, so there was no, those products didn't exist on the internet, right? So it was a lot of just cutting edge, brand new content. That program still exists to this day, but it's changed very much. So the evolution of it is that at some point we realized that the live aspect of it, having a product be live, wasn't helping it at all. So we stopped it from being it live. It wasn't helping it because like a lot of the questions that you get were just take up time. These things were like 5 to 6 hours sometimes. I'm sure you've seen some of them. They're very long. Um, so we got rid of the live element and just started filming it, so that it was more easily edited and
Right.
showed the performer in a better light. So it went like that for a while, and then weirdly, Brad, like you were talking about the audience, over time, because we've done this for like 3 years, we had a hard time getting the magician audience in, because
Mm.
every week, it was every Sunday we would bring in a new performer. And I mean, they were just spoiled to death, because they didn't have to pay to get in or anything like that. It was just, if you wanted to come, you could, and just learn magic as a local magician for free. I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah, I want to
Well,
be that
yeah,
guy. I want to be
I
in that.
know. I know. Well, I mean, I'm not blaming them, but over time they just kind of stopped coming. Like, whereas before it would be like 30 people banging on the door trying to get in. And then, sadly we would get like 4 people on a night. They were just kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
So we struck the audience from it completely. Um, Now, at the time, we had also started up doing a public show. And the reason why that show, and I think you referred to the show footage, right? The reason that show footage exists is because I had to start a magic show at Penguin because of the Tarbell project that I was doing with Dan Harlan, where Dan was performing every trick in this giant encyclopedia of magic as a product, going trick by trick, and teaching every trick, which is a whole nother topic. But the only way that was possible was to start a show so that he would have an outlet to perform these things every week. So we started a weekly show. Once that show got to a certain point, we were like, well, let's start putting these performers from out of town in the show and getting performance footage of them. So
Ah,
then Penguin Live became performance footage of the performer in the show, and then just straight up explanation of the tricks that they did in the show. Sorry, I know you asked a question here, but in order to answer it, I had to like kind of explain the
yeah,
evolution of this
it's
thing.
fast, and that's working now. People in Columbus area know, oh, I know how to go see a really cool magic show once a week.
Yeah, as far as the public knows, it's just a cool magic show. We call it the world famous P3 Magic Show, and they're blown away because we bring in people from everywhere. Like if you're a fan of magic in Columbus and you go to our shows, you've seen everybody. You've seen people from Japan. You've seen people from like this weekend we have Henry White from London and we have Mark Calabrese from Brooklyn on Saturday. So like to them, they're just like, how do they have this guy from London here? This is amazing. Um, so to them, it's just a show. They don't understand that what they're watching is then going to get explained the next day in front of a room full of magicians, which we are now full circle back to having a room full of magicians because thanks to COVID and just a long period of time where they haven't been to any lectures, they're excited to come back to lectures again.
Nice.
So we are now experimenting with having magician audience again with the show footage as well. So
Yeah, what I want to highlight though is just how creative that is. You're in the end, you're trying to sell a product which is a digital
yeah.
download of a magic performance and lecture.
Mhm.
But the lengths you go to make that awesome are really fascinating.
The we talk about it a lot. It is the most expensive process and a crazy process. We're dealing with flights and hotels and, egos and all sorts of other things
Mm.
to and right now, Brad, the weekend is this Friday, we will do 2 magic shows with Henry White. There'll be a lot of fun, a lot of work. Saturday morning, Henry White will do a lecture in front of magicians at 11:30 in the morning. Then we'll strike the room and then get ready to do 2 more magic shows on Saturday night with Mark Calabrese, which will be a lot of fun. And then Sunday morning, we'll do a lecture with Mark Calabrese at 11 in the morning.
Why are you
Um,
doing two shows? Is that in case there's a screw up and you can edit?
well, we only used to do one, and now that the show used to be on Tuesday nights. Now we've moved it to the week because of COVID, because we stopped everything. We're able to rethink it. We're like, what if we filmed it all in one weekend? So it freed up the rest of our calendar because this used to be a weekly thing that used to just dominate our production schedule. Let's get it all done in one weekend. And why not do 2 shows in a night? So, we can get the best takes of things as well. Maybe one audience wasn't all that great. You know how it is.
Right.
Um, so we've just kind of started embarked on that schedule now, which is just wild. I mean, this weekend is going to be a blast, but also a ton of work. And yeah, that's kind of where it is at the moment. There's no rules, right? We just kind of make it up as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The innovation you guys, it's just, to me, it feels like you guys are on the cutting edge of so many cool things. I remember one more thing I just wanted to mention to you. The first time I bought something from Penguin, and then they sent a video of somebody at Penguin
Oh,
packing my
yeah.
project. So I got a video saying, it was somebody's hand saying, "Look, Brad, here's the thing you bought. You're
Yeah.
putting it in an envelope with your address label on it." My head exploded. It was so cool.
So cool, right? That goes back to Ajar, who's the owner of Penguin, who I should mention, you know, we're here just like making these choices on Penguin Live, these like big choices. There's a lot of money involved in all this stuff. He just he's involved heavily, but he just trusts what we do, right? So like if we're gonna do 2 shows on a Friday night, like okay, yeah, sound you guys know better than I do, because he's not in Columbus, he's in Michigan, um, and he's just the founder of Penguin. Now, at some point, he realized I think early on, Penguin had a heavy emphasis on customer support. Um, early on, 2003, 4, 5, 6. It's just always been a staple of Penguin. The customer support is just top notch. which also helps me because when I'm out in public, like having to sell these things live, the last thing I want to hear is about people's problems with whatever trick they bought. I'm just always glad it's a positive experience. Like I got it. It's exactly the same story you just told. I can't believe that I got a video of my order being packaged. We do this thing where when the warehouse gets an order, there's a station off in the corner with like a top down camera where whoever's packing the order goes over there. They put on the white gloves like they're some sort of magician, and they show you the shipping label so you can see your name on the thing, and they put the magic, they show you the magic going into the box, and they tape it up and they slap the label on it and show you that it's, and then it's going to the right place. Honestly, like, so you know what it's called? It's called hors d'oeuvre, like order with a V at
Ah,
the end. So like it's the appetizer before you get your magic in the mail. It is a product that Penguin made. You can just go to hors d'oeuvre.com, I guess. It's an app that you can get, and your company. So there's a couple companies that do use it. I'm not sure how widely used it is, but I just like you, I can't believe it's not done more often.
well, once you
You
see
know?
it, you realize,
Yeah,
oh, talk about loyalty.
yeah,
This is it. I
yeah,
can't imagine any company not seeing that and thinking,
and stealing it
what
amazingly
is
or
that? I need
immediately.
that.
Yeah, yeah. It's always shocked me that it hasn't popped up more places, because it's just such a, it just, you're like, oh, great, I don't have to worry about my package showing up. Like, you know how it is. You buy something, and I know for the most part nowadays you're more confident that it's going to show up. But you just get in that video, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, it shipped, great. I don't
Well,
have to even wonder anymore.
it's kind of above and beyond, is what it is to me.
Yeah,
But
sure
also
is.
just massive innovation. Like, how can
Yeah,
we make this process more successful? And you guys have come up with so many answers to that question.
yeah, we're actively always trying to do that too. Like that's more about where Jar lives in his headspace. So like trying to make those things. Like right now, we're trying to on this, like it would actually happen before your hors d'oeuvre video, before you actually see it being packaged. It would be me, it's saying, hey, what's going on, and I'd be holding like a sign that has your name on it. Now it's digitally put on there, but
Still
at least
cool.
it would still cool. And I would say, hey, you're going to see your order being packed in just a second. I wanted to just tell you that about some other trick, like give you 10 seconds on why I love whatever trick.
Right.
And that would be different all the time. Like I'd be almost filming them every other day or something like that. But it's not in place yet. But we're always kind of thinking about that type of stuff. Yeah, it's important. And again, it's the one thing that people always tell me, especially when they meet me live. Like, I can't believe you guys do that.
Well, I've taken more time than I planned, but you have a lot of interesting things to say, my friend.
I talk. I mean, my job is to talk on camera to people. So, like, unfortunately, I'll talk for too long if you let me. But yeah, which is something I can't believe that I can do at this point. Never thought that I'd be like a speaker in a sense
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
It's well, we're all doing things we didn't expect. Yesterday, I was in front of this camera for 8 hours as a virtual MC, and
Oh yeah,
I just can't. I was talking to my wife saying, 10 years ago, you would have just blown my mind if you would have described how I earned money.
yeah. Are you doing magic in your virtual MC
Yeah.
stuff?
So I started out as a full-time magician for years, and then I went full motivational speaker and worked for
Mm-hmm.
business audiences. And at some point, I had erased all magic from my programs. And then I kind of woke up as though from a dream and went, "What? You love
Why?
magic and you're good at it. Why aren't?" So I've been adding it back. But it turns out virtually, magic is a kind of a surprise hit that I didn't see coming. It works great through the
Sure.
camera.
Yeah, I got to imagine it does. I haven't done a virtual show, but yeah, I know the few times that I like would do a trick for my friends and family, just the idea that you could do a trick through the camera all of a sudden is like, we're on a different level here. I can't believe I'm about to see. Is he actually going to do something like that?
Yeah,
Oh my, yeah.
the
So there's
novelty
a lot
seems
of,
to be pretty big.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's cool. It's cool. Something that Max Maven understood in the '80s, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Dude, you might not know this, but people who follow me know that Passion is social and emotional support, and that means encouragement and acknowledgement and appreciation. And I know there's no way you can be as successful as you have been without having some people in your corner. So if I ask you who is your encourager or who were your encouragers, who comes to mind?
Uh, so when it comes to like, it's hard to get away from the Michael Amar thing, which I talked about earlier in here. Googling his name, meeting him in person, and then becoming his friend because he's just a genuine, like, amazing human being. And funny enough, and this is true, Brad. So when I moved to Orlando, and the very first day that I got the job at Universal Studios, I was up early at Publix at the grocery store buying breakfast. It's like 7:30 in the morning, and who's at the grocery store? Michael Amar. Just because he lives down the street at this point, right? I'm still at this level where I'm like, holy crap, it's Michael Amar.
Right.
These days I'm still kind of that way, but at the time,
Sure.
the fact that he said, "Hey, Nick," blew my brain out of my head, right? Because how does Michael Amar know my name, right?
Mm.
Anyway, he's, "Hey, Nick, what's going on? What, you're all dressed up? What are you up to?" And I was like, "Well, Michael, I'm first day at the magic shop over at Universal Studios." And I mean, it was a simple piece of advice that he gave me, but I did take it to heart, and it was just that he was just all. And if you know Michael at all, he just said, "Oh, that's good," and kind of put his hand on his chin, and you could tell he was about to say something profound, like, you should, like, write it down, whatever it was. And he just told me, he's like, "You're going to do a lot of shows, and whatever you do, don't let it you make sure you use it. Don't let it use you." And
Mm.
at the time I was like, "Yes, so yes, Michael," whatever. But I did, and I'm proud to say that I did. Like, every show in that, of course, there was some that I took off, but every show there, I was searching for anything to learn. And I have Michael to thank for that. Now, he wasn't like a direct mentor, but he was in a sense, because I was always watching his videos back in the day, and he just has this, like creepy, like, not creepy, like, weird, I can figure it out if it's intentional or not intentional, where he'll pop into my life at the right times, right? For example, like, he came to Penguin Live. We had him on the Penguin Live show, and I was lucky because I got to open up for him, right? And he just, like, stood back and watched my show, and then he's like, "We got to go out for dinner afterwards." So when he went out, and I can't even remember all the stuff he said, I'd have to go back and write it down, but, like, just basically told me that I'd kind of leveled up, and he was, like, proud, and, like, there was just certain things that he saw for my future. Anyway, long story short, I end up at the Magic Castle for the first time, performing at the Magic Castle in 2019, and I'm doing the Late Show, which is, if you've never been, I mean, it's a pretty big deal for a magician to be invited to perform there. And I'm, like, waiting to go on. It's probably 8 at night, and I'm waiting for the first guy to get over so I can go in the room. And who's sitting at the bar? Michael Amar, right? Because I swear to God, he knew I got booked at the castle. He doesn't live in LA, Brad. He doesn't live in LA, but I swear, he knew it was important to go out. He would never tell me this directly or anything like that, right? But I think he came out he told me he came out to see me, right? Which is just crazy. Blew my brain out of my head that he was there. He didn't
Yeah.
have to do anything. He was just there because I know I'm not the only one. There's other people as well in his crop circle that he checks in on. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. But yeah, for me, it's hard to get past the importance of Michael in my magic career. It's just, yeah.
It sounds to me like he was so meaningful to you, but kind of for non-specific reasons. He was more of a validator and a acknowledger as opposed to that guy who was always boosting you up. He just made you
Yeah,
feel like you belonged.
that's somebody you should talk to right there if you can get him on here, because he's just an unbelievable human being. Yeah.
Wow, I love that story, and I love the fact that it kind of has many different touch points.
Yeah, it's a long story. That's what happens in this art. Magic. I know we're talking magic specifically, but, like, it is such a small world, and I find that a lot of people you talk to have, like, these really special stories that just seem like, how is that possible? I googled Michael Amar, and then he becomes my friend, and next thing you know, he's like, yeah. So, not that it's magic exclusive, but I feel like a lot of those things happen specifically within the magic community somehow.
Well, it wouldn't happen if you weren't good, my friend.
Well, you just gotta care, right? I just wanted to be good, so yeah.
Well, it is time. Thank you so much for taking me. I'm going to end with the same question I ask everybody, but we can learn more about Nick at your website, which is
My website's nicklocapo.com, but like we were talking about, there's not much there. I post some magic videos of things on my Instagram, which is just at Nick Locapo. That
at
might be
Nick
a little bit
Locapo.
more fun. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and check out penguinmagic.com. You will
Sure.
see Nick performing and teaching and selling and generally being awesome in all the most creative ways. Dude, here we have you, teacher, world-class performer, business person, video game creator. You've done so many different things. What gives you hope?
What gives me, I mean, I live in magic, right? Like my everyday is, I haven't worked in quite a while because what I do is just, it just consumes my life. I'm either working on my show or I'm working on Penguin stuff, and it's great. Um, Recently, it's been funny. We had 10 years of that Penguin Live show, right? Started in 2013, and it's been going on now. One of the great things that happened during that time, which was totally unexpected, is that we had all these like young 14, 13, 15-year-old magicians that were just coming every week
Right.
to see lectures. We had COVID happen, and we've kind of like, there's been a little bit of like a blink of an eye, right? And all of a sudden it's 2022. Now all those guys are 22 years old somehow, right? I don't know how it happened, but it did. And they're all killer magicians. So like, I'm real, and for all the reasons about magic being on YouTube and people can learn it. Like, so if you're passionate about magic, you can get into it, and you can actually learn it. So I'm I guess I'm hopeful that the future of magic is really, really awesome, and I'm excited to be a part of it for the next 10 years. I think it's going to be kind of looked upon as one of the best eras to be a part of magic, and I'm happy to share it with some like great magicians that are going to be coming up, because magic's only going to get better at this point. They're doing incredible things, the younger guys.
Yeah, that's such
And
a good point. I have seen some of those 20-something magicians just absolutely kill it, and so creative and innovative, and their knowledge is so much. When I was 22, I could barely hold a pack of cards, and they're killing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's even the kids right now that are performing all the time on Instagram. Like, the level of magic we're going to see 10 years from now is going to be staggering. I think it just is. They just have access to so much information. So I'm hopeful that the art of magic will be part of the, it'll be respect. I mean, it already is respected, but like, it's just going to be one of the major art forms that hopefully exists. So
Nice. The future's in good shape. Thanks in no small part to you and Penguin Magic. Well done. All right,
Thank you, Brad.
everybody, check him out. Nick Locapo, thank you so much for joining us. Hold with me just for a second. Everybody else, keep washing your hands. Apparently, we're not done. Appreciate all of you. Keep the emails coming. I love them. And thanks for being here.